from 2015, first real road start going to Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. And I remember as we warming up, still didn't know who the starting quarterback was going to be. But as we warming up, the team in a Jumbotron is playing the highlights from the year before when they just destroyed us at home. And they doing these interviews with the players, and the players are sitting down like, yeah, we're the real national champs. We the only team beat them last year. Yeah, they're not. Like, this is Blacksburg. It's going to be the same thing. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Welcome to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His nickname is Beanie Wells. I am Dave Holmes. We got a lot to talk about today. Betting odds to win the Big Ten. Plus, I'm going to get these guys' takes on their top 5 stadiums in the conference. But I do want to hit something that's a little bit random off the top of the show, guys. NBA Finals, Oklahoma City Thunder win it all. But the big story really was in Game 7, Tyrese Haliburton tears his Achilles, similar to what we saw with Kevin Durant years ago. And Beanie, sadly, when I think torn Achilles, I think of my guy here. So what happened? Take me through what these guys are dealing with.
You know, my heart goes out to him, one, because that's a tough injury, one of the worst ones to have, in my opinion, and then one of the worst ones to come back from. You know, when you're a high-caliber athlete who, you know, is used to having that explosion, you're not an offensive lineman, you're not one of those guys that just play baseball or anything. You're a basketball player and a football player, and you deal with this injury, it's going to be tough, something that's grueling to get back from. So I'm with him. I'm with him in rehab mentally. I wish I could be there physically helping him out a little bit, but nonetheless, this is going to be a grind to get back from. And it's not just Haliburton that's going through it. You know, we're watching Jason Tatum go through it, Damian Lillard go through it. And when you go back over the years and you look at players and how they fared coming back from it, only one guy that I can go to off the bat and say he's came back the same player, and that's Kevin Durant. He's the only one. We had Klay Thompson deal with it a couple of years ago, and he's felt he's never really bounced back and been the same player, in my opinion. Now, I don't know whether that's due to the Achilles and the explosion or system that he's been in, but nonetheless, it's a tough injury. And when you talk about football players doing this thing, I don't know a single one that has came back and had the same type of career in which they were before the injury.
Cardale, worst injury you've ever gone through? Hardest rehab for you?
Sprained ankle. I was extremely lucky to play so many years of football from the age of 6 years old all the way up into my last snap at the professional level. And I have never dealt with an injury that kept me out of practice or clearly out of a game. So I was extremely lucky, man. So kudos and big shouts out to all of the athletic teams that I worked with through these organizations who was heavy on me with prehab so we can avoid some of those potential injuries that you usually see with quarterbacks. But going back to that Achilles injury, and then every time I think of my guy, JT Barrett, which really set him back in his professional career, and he dealt with 2 of them on the same one. And the day he got cleared to physically start running again, he tore it again. And clearly, but things has been working out for him and smooth transition into coaching and now the Chicago Bears quarterback coach. But that rehab process and knowing what it looks like, just from a distance from one of my closest friends, I can only imagine.
Yeah. All right, so Beanie, if Cardale's worst injuries are sprained ankles, that mean he's always had like good O-lines? Does it mean he wasn't tucking and running enough?
Yeah,
all of the above.
A sprained ankle for a quarterback is the worst. You're a quarterback. You get hit all the time. That's crazy as heck and unheard of.
All of the above. And like I said, I think we did a good job of the prehab things where we talk about my ankles and knees and shoulder, because those are the usually where you see the, I wouldn't say weak points, but the more vulnerable points as the quarterback position, especially knowing you can get hit so many times for the, you know, if a guy come in on the blind side and take you down. So, but I was lucky enough to only get away with, you know, a sprained ankle.
Yeah, I get that. Just mowing the yard, man. What's that about?
He's talking about his rehab team.
I would say prehab.
But you better announce this team because they're going to make a lot of money. If you're talking about a quarterback that played at the highest level of college football, the highest level of the National Football League, only deal with sprained ankles. Hell, I want to know who they are.
But those guys are still, those guys are still at Ohio State who really helped me understand the dynamics of the body and the movement and how to really try to stay flexible and healthy. And I just took that along with me, you know, with the limited action I saw at the professional level. So big shouts out to Stu, Mike, Doug, all of those guys over there at the Woody who really helped me really throughout my career when it came to prevention.
And now Cardale's on the other side of the water fast. He's invincible at this point. His body's a temple. All right, so we're going to talk Big Ten odds to win the conference this year. Our friends from Prime Sportsbook, Ohio. By the way, make sure you get on Prime Sportsbook, Ohio. I know Cardale's a big fan of this bonus that we have. Tell him about that.
Yeah, we got an exclusive offer for all fans and listeners of The Script. Download the app now, sign up, and use our exclusive promo code SCRIPT and get a 100% deposit match up to $500. And that is $500 you can use instantly in bonus bets.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I already did it, Beanie. And we love the thing about them is the juice, because everyone else is charging 10%. These guys are like, no, we're not like that.
Yes, the juice is worth the squeeze. Only 8%. You know, those guys out there that charge 10, 12, some people even 15%. You're not dealing with that with Prime Sports. Go and sign up right now, and don't forget that promo code.
All right, promo code SCRIPT, 100% up to $500. Okay, so let's talk about these betting odds. Right now, Ohio State favored to win the Big Ten. Prime Sportsbook has them at plus 190, so around 2-1, meaning if you bet 100, you win 190. Penn State comes in second at plus 235. Then we have Oregon plus 275 and Michigan plus 676. So, guys, well, let's talk about the top four, because everyone else is way off the radar. After that, everyone else is like 25-1, 40-1. We'll talk dark horses in a minute. But, Cardale, your initial reaction to the Buckeyes being favored, are you all right with that?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I mean, we're returning champs, and you got a lot of talent around a potential new young starting quarterback and a lot of great things on defense. And I know we lost both coordinators, but we picked up two extremely great coordinators as well. And then you look at our schedule. You know, our tougher games are at home. So I think that gives us a little bit of an edge of going to getting through the first 12 weeks of the season and saying that we're going to be a top 2 team in the Big Ten to compete for the Big Ten championship game.
You know, it's funny, Beanie, because Ohio State won those 4 straight Big Ten championships in the late 2010s. They haven't won one since 2020. So it's been a minute. I mean, I get it because, like Cardale said, you're coming off a national title, but Penn State lurking, I don't mind the Nittany Lions at plus 235.
No, I don't mind them at all. But I think they're giving a lot of respect to Ohio State coming off the national championship and just the brand power that Ohio State has. When you look at, you know, Ohio State across the board, how they've recruited, I think that matters when you're throwing in these things and the anticipation of them having these high caliber players and them coming in and having success early. And I think that's one of the things you look at Ohio State. No matter if they got a quarterback that's been there for 2 years or even a young quarterback going in his first year, they've had success out the gate. And I think that's one of the things that you can look at. And you can say Ohio State, they're going to be just fine because they're going to have a quarterback leading the charge that's going to be successful. We already know the talent that they got at the other skill positions. They'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, when we looked at it back in the day, you might want to sprinkle a little action on the team in the West because some sorry team had to make it out of the West. I mean, it was so bad when it was stacked with Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, all on the East side. Now it's different with everyone kind of lumped into one big conference there. I mean, the schedule, though, because it's imbalanced. You have Michigan and Oregon only play one of those other top teams on that. So, Cardale, I mean, is it fair the way it's done now when you can only play basically half the conference of the season and you don't have like schedules?
I mean, each year we see the top team in the Big Ten has a cupcake schedule. So, I mean, this year now, Michigan and Oregon turn is to put themselves in a position to be able to say, hey, we're a top 2 team in the Big Ten, and let's fight for the Big Ten championship game, even though they're only going to play, you know, a third of those top teams in the conference overall. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the name of the game is to win each game you go out there and play, no matter if I'm playing against, you know, a bottom team in the Big Ten or a top dog.
Beanie, what do you make of the schedule here? Michigan and Oregon certainly have the easiest draw of these top 4.
No question about it. I don't like it. I really don't. I want it to be, you know, continuity across the board to where it's fair for everybody. And I know most times, like Carter just said, we're looking at it to where there are a couple of teams in the Big Ten who do have an easier route. But, man, where we are right now in the state of college football, I want everybody to have at least 3 conference games that you know are going to be tough matchups. Heck, even as just a casual fan, I want to know if I'm an Oregon fan, I want to know that they're going to have a gauntlet to go through because I want to see quality football. I don't want them just to get an easy road to the college football playoff or easy road to the Big Ten title and they get there and stink it up. I want to know what you're made of throughout the season.
Well, ironically, we can't talk about these 2 teams because last year they did go through the gauntlet.
Yeah.
it's kind of tough to talk about these 2 teams having an easier schedule this year. I feel for them this year, and they deserve that schedule this year. But last year, those 2 teams in particular by far had the toughest schedule in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that was so last year, though, Carter. Okay, so if we get on Prime Sportsbook, we're trying to make a little bit of money here. Remember, promo code SCRIPT for a 100% deposit match up to $500. But if we're trying to make money here on Prime Sportsbook, let's talk long shots here because everyone else is 25-1, 40-1, 60-1. Give me a team that is way off the board, and let's try to make people rich, Cardale.
You know what? My dark horse coming out the Big Ten is Illinois.
Okay.
I mean, you look at the team, look at what they was able to do last year. Over, 10 wins they had last year. Completely turned that program around and what we thought of Illinois as a team. And then they have the most returning starters coming back outside of Penn State. You're talking about returning this season and being able to compete at a high level. And I think they have a very favorable schedule as well. So I got them coming out the Big Ten as a dark horse.
All right, Cardale might want to pound that over on the win total, too. All right, what about you, Beanie?
Yeah, I'm right there with Cardale. I'm going a lot now. You know, we can't forget about Brett Bielema and the coach that he's been throughout his career. When you look at what he did at Wisconsin, he always had them in contention for a Big Ten championship. He's always had the ability to go out and recruit top-tier players, and right now he's going through the portal and able to pick up guys and quality players. And you go back and look at their quarterback, Luke Altmaier. He was sensational last year, super efficient. Pat Bryant out there on the edge. Then his defense on the defense side of the ball, they were a good football team. And then, like we just talked about, coupled with the most returning starters in the Big Ten, you can't, negate the Illini and what they potentially could bring to the table this year.
All right, so you guys are trying to win a new car. I'm trying to retire. I'm gonna go way off the board because scared money don't make money. I'm going Nebraska, way off the board at 45-1. And here's why: you get Dylan Raiola, you have a quarterback that you have talent in year 2. You have Matt Rule, a quarterback or a head coach that we've seen win at the college level. He's been an NFL head coach. He has another year in the system.
Didn't do so well in the NFL.
Okay. Yeah. The NFL, he had a cup of coffee.
Right.
He had a cup of coffee. But that's why he's back where he wins in college. So, look, I don't think Nebraska's going to win it. But if I'm looking at where I would just sprinkle a little bit, 45-1, they're only tough road games at Penn State. They get Michigan at home. So, lose 2 games in the Big Ten and hope chaos happens. You never know. Never know.
We'll see. Long shot.
So you're telling me I should just invest in something else than Nebraska, Cardale?
I mean, define sprinkle a little on that.
10 to win 450?
Why not?
All right, 10 to win 450. All right, well, coming up next here on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes, we're going to talk all the Big Ten stadiums and get their top 5. But just a reminder, if you do play on Prime Sportsbook, we encourage you to use our promo code SCRIPT. But call 1-800-GAMBLER if you think you have a gambling addiction. Must be 21 and over to play. Odds subject to change. More Script coming up next. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and Apple Pod or follow us on Spotify. Just one programming reminder. We are off next week. Or when are you going on vacation? Why are we off? Why are we resting up already?
I mean, some of us got to go get some sun.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back with a new episode on July 2nd. Okay, so I wanted to have this debate about best stadiums in the Big Ten. So I'm going to personally throw
outside of the shoe.
Exactly. I'm going to throw the shoe out. We're not going to let that. We can't be objective. So we're going to be objective on the rest of the stadiums. So your top 5 stadiums. So Cardale, give me one of your top 5 stadiums in the Big Ten.
Just because out of respect that they just got in the Big Ten, I can't put them 1, but they're going to be 2 outside of the shoe. I got Penn State. Penn State will be my number 1 outside of the shoe. And then you got to go with Oregon just because they just came in and just seeing that environment with Ohio State just played in. And then you got to go to Wisconsin, which is another unbelievable. Yeah, it's another unbelievable atmosphere. And then a stadium that doesn't get as much love from us because they're another team that just coming into the Big Ten. But Washington, we talked about this last week, that environment as well. And then I think just out of pure capacity, and sometimes it can get rowdy, you got to go with the Big House. I mean, it's the biggest stadium in the country, holds the most, but I think the way that they designed that thing, it just don't hold noise as well as some of these other stadiums, but the atmosphere is always great.
All right, Beanie, what's your top 5?
Oh man, obviously Ohio State is my number 1.
I
love the atmosphere there. For this other spot, it was very close between Penn State and Washington. I know Washington came into the Big Ten, but I got the opportunity to play there in 2007. And that stadium is so freaking loud. They got that aluminum awning right over the top of you, and they're off the water, so it's echoing. The fans are just crazy. So I'll probably go at that spot, Washington, and then second, Penn State. Penn State, I got a crazy story about Penn State. I'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
But that roar that they do is freaking ridiculous. Right.
Yeah.
The whiteout, it's insane. Penn State is definitely a great vibe to be at for a football game. And then I'll go Wisconsin, Camp Randall, jump around.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what that experience is like. A quiet one that people really, don't give it a lot of credit is Iowa. Iowa at
I never
night.
played there, though.
So I went to Iowa at night in 2006. Crazy environment. They got the pink locker room, which is crazy as well. But nonetheless, their fans are right on top of you. And you can literally have a conversation with the fans. That's how bad it gets. Wow. So Iowa.
You know, the last
Did I do
time,
5? Is that 5?
yeah, the last time I went to Kinnick Stadium at Iowa, this is not even, I'll tell the story in another episode. I won't get into today. I was escorted by security out of the press box. There was an incident. There was an incident. Well, I'll tease that later. So my top 5 for me, Penn State to me is the best one outside the shoe. I mean, and you know, even with all due respect to the shoe, nothing like a whiteout. And when you get 110,000 people at night, that's the best atmosphere in the Big Ten. Oregon, I put on there, finally experienced Autzen Stadium last season. That place brought it. It's just a beautiful backdrop in the state there. Incredible. Washington, I'm with you, Beanie. I just think the whole vibe of parking the boats right there and people coming in is an awesome atmosphere. Wisconsin, Camp Randall. I love the way Madison is set between 2 lakes on campus. It's always so nice up there in Madison. Jump around, crazy atmosphere. And the one that you guys both left off, which is wild to me because it tells us just how far this football program has fallen. UCLA plays in the Rose Bowl, guys.
No.
UCLA. Are we forgetting the Rose Bowl?
No. We're not forgetting the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl as a bowl game is amazing. Right. But far as me personally, I would never want to play there every game as a home game just because of the tradition of the Rose Bowl. I don't want to say I play at the Rose Bowl every freaking week because they can potentially play in the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. What makes it more special if you just play potentially 7 to 8 games there throughout the year? And even outside of that, you know, UCLA hasn't been the UCLA I grew up on watching a very long time where that stadium is packed. I mean, you look at their big in-state rivalry versus USC, and that stadium's not even packed.
Yeah.
So the atmosphere isn't there, but the stadium name and the history, I think that's a different conversation versus the best atmosphere.
Yeah, no, you're right, because it's so weird how when you're there in Pasadena for the Rose Bowl and the sunsets on the San Gabriel Mountains, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
But you know, a September non-conference game, Washington against, you know, Oklahoma State. It's kind of like, or UCLA against Oklahoma State. It's like, who really cares?
Well, this UCLA versus USC there, and it's like, whatever.
Well,
still a lot of empty seats.
And it's funny, USC as well. Like, if you take that stadium, USC, in the 1984 Olympics when the torch is there, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But, you know, outside of that, Beanie, did you
Yeah,
well, you played.
I didn't play in that game, but we went out there.
Okay, I was gonna say. So you got to go to the Coliseum.
So, and that was a different time too. That was when USC was still a hot football team.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of fanfare, and I think the thing with USC, it wasn't really like the atmosphere in terms of the fans.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the celebrities who were going to be at the game.
Yeah.
From the 2000s to about 2007. It was like a who's who that you were going to see at that football game.
It was like the Colorado now. Like
exactly.
The night games for Colorado. It's like who's who are there on the sideline, things like that. And I think also what's hurting their atmospheres is now you have so many professional teams that's doing really good in LA. You know, now you got 2 new football teams in LA. You know, from their glory days of UCLA and USC really packing out that stadium. So.
Okay, so let's do our segment here, the anonymous text. I asked a friend of mine, someone I know who covers the Michigan Wolverines. And I said, what's your take? Is Michigan a top 5 stadium? And here's what he said. He said, great venue, great tradition, but slightly overrated. If another team played there besides Michigan, wouldn't get as much hype. So you kind of implied that, Cardale, where it's like the single bowl is really cool. The fight song, the tradition, the banner jump, like they have a vibe up there at the Big House, but you guys are saying the acoustics. It's not the Red Rocks. Apparently.
It's not. It's not as impressive. I think I would say as a fan going to one of those games and also playing in it, you just like, oh, okay, it's 100,000, but it's not as loud because, like I said, the spacing out of it, and then just other people going to these games is like, I guess their benches sit like 80 people in one row. So if you're in the middle of that, you gotta go to the bathroom. You gotta pass, 45 people this way and 35 this way, and just those type of things. But nevertheless, it's still one of the greatest football stadiums in all of football, period, because of the history and the traditions and the unbelievable games that have been played there. But I just wouldn't put it as a top atmosphere.
It definitely has historic value, but in terms of like the fanfare, I mean, quite frankly, when you look and you're watching a Michigan game on TV, just look at the stands. There's a lot of old people there. There's nothing wrong with old people, but they're not getting loud.
Yeah.
They're not turning up the stadium. They're not getting you excited about what's going on the field. And I think when we talk about, top tier stadiums, that's what we want.
Yeah,
I want to see some cussing. I want to see some fighting in the stands. That's not happening at Michigan.
Yeah, you want to see the craziness. I remember I went to an OU and Texas game a few years back during COVID. So it was a different atmosphere, but walking into the stadium and seeing so many young people and females in dresses and guys and and khakis and shirts tucked in and boots and stuff like that. Almost like a social event. You know, you see the young student athletes or the young students here at Ohio State going to a game, a noon game, and they're halfway blacked out. You know, and they got their freaking you know, they got their hoochie daddy shorts on and their leggings, and they getting ready to, you know, face paint. They're getting ready to go crazy. And you see that a lot in the South as well. But those are the type of environments I want to be a part of when they're talking about playing in front of a home crowd to get you a real home field advantage.
Speaking of hoochie daddy shorts, how much confidence do you guys both have? I mean, I can't do this. You kidding me right now? I'm not wearing.
Roll it up as we're sitting down.
Yeah,
exactly. It starts with leg tattoos. You got to have leg tattoos first.
That's a little free something for the folks on YouTube. You know, now you got to watch the video version. All right, so Beanie, you implied you had a story, what, about Happy Valley?
Yeah, Happy Valley.
Okay, so what happened?
I remember back in 2007, we're there, and Cardale, you know this. You get off the bus.
Right
and you
there.
walk straight through a crowd of people. And on this particular time, you know, I'm walking through a crowd of people, and I'm getting called every obscenity possible. And, you know, I had on headphones. We walked off the bus with big headphones at the time, but I could hear everything that was going on. That's how loud it was. And then there was a rope. The rope is literally from me to you. This is what we have to walk through.
Yeah.
And guys are trying to grab our bags. Our security's trying to stop them. But nonetheless, it was a great atmosphere. It made you, like, pumped up for the football game going through that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even outside of that, and my story comes outside the Big Ten, but even outside of that, staying at that motel.
Oh, my God. The worst place to stay ever in the Big Ten.
At the motel that's right there on campus, and all they're doing all night, the students around the school, is running and banging on your doors and blowing the horns at 1, 2 in the morning and stuff like that. So that's a part of it. But my experience come from 2015, first real road start going to Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. And I remember as we warming up, still didn't know who the starting quarterback was going to be. But as we warming up, the team in a Jumbotron is playing the highlights from the year before when they just destroyed us at home. And they doing these interviews with the players, and the players are sitting down like, yeah, we're the real national champs. We're the only team beat them last year. Yeah, they're not. Like, this is Blacksburg. It's going to be the same thing. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Yeah. And the stadium is half full before you go out, and you about to come back for the final run out. And that thing is jumping, and they playing Enter Sandman. And you like, oh my God, what did we just come to? But it gets you hyped for those environments. It's like, you know, it's like that gladiator at the edge of that gate right before he goes into that Coliseum and fight a tiger or a bear or something like that. That's how you get that feeling right there.
Or fight a Nittany lion. Wow.
Exactly. You guys don't take what's half Nittany lion. So
that's my Nittany lion. Is there a crowd that you guys really loved and almost a hatred respect for? Like, we don't like these guys, but we love playing in front of them?
Purdue. Hated the people at Purdue, but I loved playing against them. And we talk about accommodations. Their locker room was like a shed.
It was a shed. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it is that place. The worst place to go and play, but they're fans. I mean, you're engaging back and forth with them, and they really, really get after it. I love being in those environments where you got people just talking all the time, the entire game. I love it.
It's so funny you say Purdue. So one time I was there at Ross-Ade, and I think it was the Rondale Moore year. And I accidentally walked into the locker room. It was during the game. It was like first quarter. I thought it was like the media shed.
Yeah.
And I was expecting to see like weed eaters and mowers in there. I cannot believe it. So, Cardale, is there a place that you just hated to play like that?
You know what? I wouldn't. Well, I hated to play at Purdue just because of the environment. The time. The time difference always killed this because we played at noon, so it was an 11 o'clock kick. And then just the environment wasn't the greatest. It's hard to get teams up to play those type of games. It's usually coming off a big win, and then it's a quote-unquote trap game. But a team in a space that I love to play at and really engage and have that environment because you know they was bringing it every time was Penn State.
Yeah. Penn State really is good. So those are our top 5 stadiums. On our next episode of The Script, we're going to talk bottom 5 stadiums. Who made the basement? Because I think some of these schools kind of fumbled their experience.
Speaking of fumbles, you guys know what's worse than fumbling in the red zone?
Yeah, an interception.
Never heard of it. Beanie.
I know, a damp, wet, musty basement. But you know what, Central Ohio? We got the perfect team to tackle that issue for you.
You know, that's right. The Buckeye Basement Solution is your championship team for all of those needs. I'm talking about quality waterproofing, clean air, and foundation repair all through Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, they know their stuff, too. More than 20 years of combined experience. They can help you with that waterproofing, the foundation, and the best part is they will tailor fit the job to your basement.
And get this. Free inspections, and with flexible financing options, you can't go wrong. So it's no more excuses about putting off those repairs.
Yeah, some people love to hype that they will match a competitor's offer. Buckeye Basement Solutions will beat it. They will beat any competitor's written offer. That's pretty huge.
Listen, if you want to keep your foundation strong and a clean basement is easy, call the guys at 614-956-4592 or visit the BuckeyeBasementSolution.com.
That's BuckeyeBasementSolutions.com. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Yeah, Buckeye Basement Solutions, quality you can count on.
Go
Bucks! Yeah, thanks again to Buckeye Basement Solutions for jumping on board with us here on The Script. More Script coming up next. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. New episodes every Wednesday, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, guys, when we talked about doing this show 4 or 5 months ago, we all met and we said we are going to talk about things we don't always want to talk about. We are going to try to be fair and objective. And sadly, that's what we have to do right now because big news this week and tragic news. Kirk Barton, former All-American lineman for the Ohio State Buckeyes, charged with aggravated vehicular homicide, released on $500,000 bond. And I'm sure most people listening to the show know what happened. According to police, Kirk Barton was driving the wrong way late at night in Dublin, turned his pickup truck around, and was driving at a high rate of speed. He struck a car that had 24-year-old Ethan Perry inside, and Ethan Perry was pronounced dead on the scene. Just unspeakable tragedy. According to police, Kirk Barton said he had been drinking alcohol. That's, of course, going to be very big as this thing heads to trial at some point. So, Beanie, I'll start with you. I mean, this isn't fun to talk about, and I think the easy thing to do here would be to dunk on Kirk Barton, and I think some people would say rightfully so. We're going to try to mention the name Ethan Perry as much because, to me, this is way more about Ethan Perry and the life that was lost, and we're going to read some comments here from his friends and family in a minute, but just a tragedy. I know Kirk Barton was your teammate at Ohio State, so you probably feel a little something more than even we do in this situation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, anytime, anyone loses their life, one, is a tragedy. And then two, when you have someone that you know is directly involved, it's even worse. So this is a tough situation. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family of Ethan, and certainly wish things like this wouldn't transpire. But on the flip side of that, going to Kirk Barton, just knowing him for a long time, since I was probably 17 years old, knowing the type of person that he is and the things that he's been through, it's gut-wrenching. It's heartbreaking. When you see somebody, just have a trend of a downward spiral. And I think it, speaks volumes not to, just Kirk, but or to myself, but I think to everybody, knowing individuals that are going through something, to reach out a little bit more, because certain times you can see people start to, go left in their lives. And I think Kurt had a couple of situations happen over the years that weren't his best mentally, where he was making the sound decisions. And this happened to be one of them. And, there's no way to slice it. I mean, drinking and driving is a no-go. And I honestly don't have much sympathy for anybody that goes out and does that when you have the resources to go out and get an Uber. While Kurt is my former teammate, I hate it happen.
Yeah.
Did not want it to happen. Certainly wish he would have, exercised better judgment in this situation. And, he's going to have to deal with those consequences.
Yeah, it makes me mad because, again, I'm trying not to be too harsh here, but my goodness, like, if people are dumb and make poor decisions, we all have one life to live, and in some level that's on you. This is the one where bad decisions take another life, and that's where I get fired up because Ethan Perry, 24 years old, told his mom he was going to play Xbox and get wings. And it's like, if that's not a 24-year-old sentence, I don't know what is, right? He was still so young. He didn't have a choice in this matter, and that makes me sick, Cardale. So, again, I'm trying to rein in some of the anger here as we're trying to have a more civil discussion about it. But it does get me fairly fired up because this stuff just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, and as I try to keep my composure about the whole situation, and like we said, thoughts and prayers to the Perry family and friends, because I've dealt with this personally with having someone affected by this. Same thing, wrong place at wrong time, and life definitely gone too too early. But back to what you were saying, Beanie, when it comes to us as friends and family members, when we see, it's almost a situation where you see something, say something. We've seen so many public altercations or not best showing of who Kurt really is over the last couple of years, and we kind of, from a distance, wish that some of those actions would change. But this one ultimately not just costing him, it cost someone else the ultimate thing in their lives. So we were just talking about some of the comments that his family has made the Perry family has made throughout this, and it just gives. I just hope this doesn't give that family a bad taste of what Buckeye Nation and the Buckeye brothers are really about. Um, this is just tough all around for everybody involved, and it's sad to say that we actually even have to comment on something like this.
Yeah, and you're right there because, you guys as former Ohio State players, right? Like, you guys carry the brand. I mean, good, bad, and ugly. And this stuff reflects poorly on the university, and that might not necessarily be fair, but it is what it is, guys. You guys have more of a spotlight on you being former players than, say, me or someone listening to the show. It's what it is.
Yeah, no question about it. And you definitely have to carry that with you with such high regard because, I mean, a lot of people do love the Buckeyes, and, you are treated fairly well because of what you were able to do and accomplish here at Ohio State. And now a family has to have that nasty taste in their mouth because of what one of our members of the brotherhood went out and did. And, it's not something that we want. It's not something that, we feel good about, certainly. And obviously this family will have that sour taste, especially if things don't go in their favor as they go through court proceedings.
Yeah, I'll read you what his mother, Ethan Perry's mother, said. Rosalind Perry said, quote, in talking about the $500,000 bond that Kirk Barton was released on, quote, "That's nothing for him. All you assessed him was $500,000. That's a slap in our face. But I guess that's the OSU privilege since he's an OSU football star." And man, I hear a mother's quote, and I'm with her on the anger. There is no way to feel anything but anger, especially when it's this raw and it's this real. And you know what? If bond was $2 million, if it was $8 million, if it was $14 million, it doesn't bring back Ethan Perry. And that's the sad part is no matter what happens here, and we don't know exactly, the facts are going to come out. Police say that he was drinking. I mean, this stuff will all come out. And if it's true, Kirk is going to serve time. And we don't know how long, but it's probably never going to be long enough for that family. And that's the hard part. There's no such thing as fair in this. It'll never end up fair.
And I don't think even the potential jail time is the issue here. We're talking about something that is going to change a lot of lives forever, right?
Yeah.
Kurt would never be the same person from this. The Perry family would never be the same people from this, of losing a kid and being a father. I can't imagine losing a kid, right? And then and also just being someone who drives on a day-to-day basis. I can't imagine taking someone's life. Even right now, just reflecting on how I move and how I operate. I live in Powell. If I even have plans on going downtown for dinner, and I don't even drink, I may have a half a glass of wine. I get an Uber. I get a driver or something. And not saying people got to go through those extents, but we have so many different resources to avoid situations like this. That's the frustrating part.
Yeah, all right. So this comment was from one of Ethan Perry's friends. Said the world could use more people like him, The world could use more people like him. This is rough. I wish we could at least say, "Hey, man, I appreciate you. I love you." I will just say this. If you guys have a chance to interact with the Perry family, send them your love. I mean, I can't imagine what they're going through. Ethan Perry, 24 years old, just far, far too young to lose a life like that. So our thoughts and prayers certainly with the Perry family. A very rough week indeed. Well, that'll do it for us on this week of The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Reminder, we are off next week. We'll be back here on July 2nd. See you.